our vice president this year.
Yeah.
Thank you, Jen. And she presented you with the membership forms, paperwork, etc. We're licensed by the state, so we have to do things, you know, what the government wants us to do. If you're going to be transporting critters around, there is a copy of our license that I'll give you. You put in your glove compartment in case a cop stops you and says, "What is the squirrel doing in your car?" You know. So that's a good thing. Okay, we all need 6 hours of continuing education every season. This will count for 2. You can do 3 of those hours with mentoring. So any work you do with someone like me, who's an experienced rehabber, and is mentoring you, that counts. So one other 1-hour class will carry you up to your 6 units of continuing education. Okay. In the next few weeks, we will be emailing you this video, the one that Shay is doing right now. This will be videoed for people who can't be here today. And there are 5 or 6 short videos on various topics: how to fill out the paperwork, how to be on call, some clinical stuff like how to do the physical exam, how to give medications, housing, releasing, feeding and weaning. Those sorts of things will be in shorter videos. And Shay has kindly said that he will come and video. Bev is going to do one and do these little videos, and they're going to be on a Google Drive, and you will get access points to that. In addition to the video education pieces, I'm going to bring in one of those half file cabinets, and we're going to stuff it full of information, education pieces for you, so you can come in and get information on, gee, I can't remember about weaning or feeding or whatever, and here's the handout. If you get to the bottom and there's one left, don't take the last one. We'll copy it. And that we have a copy machine in here too, or just let the people know that you need copies. Okay. Aside from home small mammal care, there are other ways that you can contribute to the small mammal team if you'd like. The intake center here will be staffed 7 days a week, and last I heard it was going to open on May 1st. Am I right, guys?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
But it may not be 7 days.
It may be like last year, not weekends or something. Okay. We've been asked if we could have a small mammal person staffed here during those days. Maybe not even all day, but it would help them because they do a lot of birds here. So if someone who knows, you know, more about small mammals can be here a few hours or a day, if that's one thing that you could do for our team. And then, you know, if an animal comes in, you would call the on-call person. You'd be here to receive it. You'd make a call to the on-call small mammal person, and they would come and triage the animal if appropriate, or tell you where you need to take it. Staffing the IC here is a good way to learn. I learned a lot. I took a 4-hour shift a week and learned a lot about birds, but other things too, and how the organization works. It's a good way to serve. We could probably use some secretarial help. Jen is helping us with a lot of that, but she's going to be pressed with her vice president job this year. Being on call for the community as the small mammal team person is something we can teach you how to do if you'd like to take a day to take calls from the community. That's something.
Can you do that at home?
Absolutely,
Okay.
absolutely. Just carry your cell phone and take the call. So let me go through the process of how that works here, okay? Our answering service will get a call from the community. And if it's a small mammal call, they will call the on-call person, right? Then that person reaches out to the finder, the person who has the animal. And then you ascertain what's going on? Is it injured? Are they babies? What's going on? Often I will ask people to text me a picture so I can tell, as the lady said in the video. Sometimes I got a baby squirrel and it's this big. No, you don't have a baby. Leave that squirrel alone. Or they tell you it's a possum and it's a raccoon. I mean, stuff like that does happen. So, and babies, as you were saying, it's hard to tell. Okay, so if it's something that we aren't taking, like again, we used to take possums, we aren't this year. If a possum calls, then you refer them out and you're given. A Gold Country down in Auburn takes a lot of our critters.
How come we aren't taking any possums?
We got no one to do it at this point. I was doing them, but it takes months and months in an outdoor cage for a possum, and months before you can release them. So that's kind of a drawback to possums. But they're sweet little guys.
Yeah.
I've enjoyed the possums. They're marsupials, and they're nocturnal. And they're very, very interesting. They're our only marsupial in Northern California. I mean, in North America. Okay. So being professional, kind, and accurate as we represent our organization is pretty vital. Often callers are excited, upset, so calming them down and being warm and kind is important. So if it's an appropriate animal to us, the on-call person usually then meets with the finder and the animal. We try to get them to bring the animal here. But we have been known to chase an animal around the county if someone can't bring it in, but we really try hard not to do that. Okay, so then we can assess the animal and its needs here at the intake center. If it's appropriate for home rehab, we would then call a home rehabber to come and pick up the animal and take it to their home for care. And as the person is here with us in the IC, they will get all of the appropriate things that they need. Any education they need, the food, medications, a cage, and answer any questions from the on-call person that meets with them. So you'll feel fairly secure, but everyone needs mentoring, and I and other skilled rehabbers will be available by phone for any questions you have. I plan to focus on that this year with new people to really get them up and running. Because you can feel alone out there. I have, but and it was good to have a mentor to call. Okay, where am I? Okay, so today I will hit the bare bones highlights about gray squirrel care. I'm mindful of getting too detailed because it's easy to get overwhelmed, so it will be nothing like all of what you will learn about critters as you go through this work. Much of the learning takes place when you have the animal in front of you, you've done reading on it, and your mentor can teach you. So that's where a lot of learning takes place. So I couldn't believe this, but squirrels make up 40% of the mammals on Earth. Isn't that astounding?
Wow.
Like 40%? It's just astounding. Yeah. There are hundreds of species in the world. They mate in the spring and the fall usually after they're 2 years old. So my little teenager who came and listened to me while I practiced the speech this morning won't have babies until next season, maybe a year from now. She's maybe 8 months old, so I carry walnuts in my pocket when I'm outside. She knows that, so she comes by. So moms often have 2, sometimes 3 litters. We've been seeing some 3 litters in a season. And as
4.
our climb, 4? You've seen 4? Oh my goodness, that's crazy. But as you know, the climate changes and we have more warm months, they can cycle through. Those poor moms, I always feel like, are they sleeping all winter? After 3 litters, like females will not male with the same male twice. I didn't know that. And that, makes the gene pool up. Mother Nature's amazing. 60-day gestation for gray squirrels. I think it's half that for grounds, isn't it? I think so, ground squirrels. They have an average of 4 babies to a litter. Their nests are high in the trees. Gray squirrels are tree squirrels, so their nests are way high, and they make them of leaves and feathers and
Sticks and twigs.
pardon?
Sticks and twigs.
Sticks and twigs, yeah. Pine needles, mistletoe. You'll see moms in the spring gathering building materials, and they'll put it in their mouth and go up the tree. They're making a nest for their babies. One thing I do every year is, you know those suet container things, metal that you put out for the birds? Dryer lint and cotton stuff I'll put in there and hang it by the bird feeder, and they'll come up and pull some out, and they like that for their nests. So that's, yeah, it's kind of cool. Anyway, in the wild they eat fruits, nuts, grains, bugs, and if they're starving, dead critters too. They need salt, which they get in plenty in nature, but if I have a squirrel in the outdoor cage, I'll put a salt buck in there or a kettle bone, you know, for them to gnaw at. Their teeth continue to grow through their lives, and they sharpen them on branches and deer antlers. You can buy 10 of these in a pack, and I'll keep these stocked. And they chew. Someone's been chewing on this one. They chew on these, and that keeps their teeth in good shape. Squirrels communicate with each other with vocalizations and tail gestures. They're a hoot to watch. It's squirrel TV at my house.
Drumbeat, you know.
Yeah, and so it's really fun to get on YouTube and or on Google and find the squirrel vocalization sites, and you can really get to know what they're saying out there. It's kind of fun. The western gray is a clean rodent, but it can be dangerous. They can really hurt you with their sharp teeth and their claws. My mentor says she'd rather deal with anything. Give her a raccoon rather than a gray squirrel. Just in terms of that danger variable. I've been bitten and scratched. We probably all have been. You'll be taught techniques, hopefully, to avoid this, but it's kind of inevitable. You're going to have scratched up hands. It's not a big deal usually. Gray squirrels are by far the most prevalent small mammal we get in. And if you know the basics for gray squirrels, it applies to, with notable exceptions, it applies to other squirrels as well as other mammals. So learning on one will really teach you a lot about learning about all of them. If we have experienced rehabbers willing to take on other species, and we may have, I hear, skunks, raccoons, possums, we can expand into that this year. We did mostly squirrels last year. Other forms of squirrels in our area include the ground squirrel, which likes lower elevations. They hang out in Penn Valley, Lake Wildwood.
By the golf courses.
Yeah, they like the golf courses.
We have a ton of them though. They've moved in, they're moving up the hill. We live
as we get warmer.
near the high school. There's just a ton of them now.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Wherever there's a small incline, that's
Yeah.
where they
Build their nest.
like that incline, it's where they dig their holes. They don't build a
Right.
nest, they dig holes.
Oh, I don't know much about those critters. So other squirrels we get, fox and Douglas squirrels, flying squirrels, sometimes a chipmunk. They like to be up higher, like Tahoe, there's a lot of chipmunks, but they'll catch a ride in a truck, and we'll get a chipmunk every now and then that we raise, and then we have to schlep them back up to Tahoe because they don't survive here. So anyway, our goal is to raise them to go back to a wild life upon release, and cuddling them when they're very little is a joy, and but once they get over 6 weeks or so,
Once they can see.
And when they can see it
Yeah.
4 weeks or so, then we gradually decrease our handling of them. They will refuse to be handled pretty quickly when they've gotten,
They don't imprint
Active.
on people, squirrels don't. They'll go back, they'll be very leery and go back to being skittish.
they do. They
They'll,
do.
they'll be habituated because they know where the food comes. So
Yeah,
they
right.
run towards you, but
Yeah.
they're very skittish. Yeah.
You can tell one you've raised from one that's wild, because mine will come up pretty close to me, and the ones that you didn't raise won't
The
come
minute you
within
walk out there,
20
they're gone.
Yeah, exactly, exactly.
Paula, is there a need to release them close to where they were found or not?
Ground squirrels, yes. Gray squirrels, no. I've released
Okay.
most of my gray squirrels into my yard.
Okay.
And they have a 14 acre territory, I was reading. Especially the males, of course, will get out and about searching for mates, you know. Females tend to stay a little bit closer to where you've raised them. But most of mine are gone. I don't see them anymore, especially the ones from 4 or 5 years ago, you know, they're gone.
They'll leave especially when there's a drought because they'll go look for water.
For water.
And they just stay
Yeah.
there.
Right. And so as they get older, we syringe feed them through the bars of their cage. There's a point when you stop handling them at all unless you are transferring them to another cage. And I hate that. It's hard, because by that point they do not want you to touch them. And that's what we want. And I gradually withdraw even eye contact. So a month in their outdoor cage prior to release helps them to wild up, get used to outdoor sounds, see the predators coming through, eyeballing them, you know, trying to get underneath and their cage and eat them. You know, they have to get used to what's dangerous out there.
And it gives them a chance for their fur to either become more fluffy if it's close to winter or.
Yeah,
because now
when they're out
They're acclimated to the weather.
in more cold, yeah. Their mom would be teaching them this. We can approximate what mom would be doing. We're doing them a disservice if we treat them as pets. They are wild animals.
How long do they live?
20 years in
oh,
captivity.
In captivity, yeah, but in the wild,
3 to
4 or 5.
years,
Yeah, yeah, it's rough out there for a squirrel.
Everything wants to eat them.
Yeah,
If they were
Especially
standing on a
the
beach,
big four-wheeled
Oh.
things that drive down the street, you know,
yeah, that's a sad thing.
unfortunately.
Exactly. So how do we get our patients? In the spring, especially this spring, as you saw in the video, tree trimmers will fell nests. I will stop every tree guy, and there's tons of them around this year because of the bark beetle, because of the fire abatement stuff. But I'll stop and ask every tree guy I see to look for them, and I give them my phone number. Call me if you see a nest. And
We used to have a little handout. One is in English and one is in Spanish.
no, I'll try and find
I
that.
don't know what happened to that, but that was nice. What I would do is quite often I'd see them parking their cars or something around lunchtime. I'd go put one under each.
Yeah, that's a good
windshield
idea.
wiper.
If you find that, could I have a copy?
Yeah.
We'll put it in the
I
file.
have it on my computer, I think. I can
Send
forward
it to me.
Yeah.
That'd be great. Thank you. Some babies fall from the nest as they get more active. You know, mom kind of corrals them, but they're want to explore the world. They can fall that way, and we get some patients that way too. Cats and dogs. Go ahead.
I'm sorry. But if they fall and they're not injured, do they climb back up to their nest?
Depends on how old they are.
Okay.
They got to be
Yeah.
a pretty old baby to.
And the mother won't come down and take them out?
Mom can.
She can?
Yeah.
Okay.
It really depends if she saw it, if
Yeah.
you know, if how old it is. If it gets caught by a cat or dog on the ground, usually that's an older one, not a pinky, because they've crawled out of the nest. We get babies that way too. So reunification is the first thing we try. If if you find a cold baby, you've gotta warm it up. That's job one, and you'll hear that a lot in rehabbing. That baby's gotta be warm for just about everything. Mom will not take a cold baby back, and they can die too. You can't feed them.
And when you try to reunify them, I've had people call me, and what they do is they'll, because it's a little breezy outside and maybe sunny, but they'll go, oh, it's cold, you know, so we put a cardboard box on the side to block the wind from it. I go, well, the mother's never gonna go down there, because she's looking at that like, is that gonna eat me? It's trying to eat my baby, you know, and so, you have to leave the babies by themselves if possible, you know, no cats or dogs around, and it's
Right.
warm enough.
Right.
You know, just leave it at the base of the tree if you see the mom, but don't
Yeah.
put anything, no blankets, no nothing.
Yeah, okay.
Think natural.
After you warm it up, so bring it in, warm it up, a hot water bottle, a heating pad. I put them here in my bra, and that warms them up, or a breast pocket if a man has it, and that's a good way to do that. So once it's warm, you can, as Lisa says, place the baby under the nearest tree from where you found it, but only during the day. And then watch for mom, but from quite a distance. She won't come if you're that close. So get far away, but watch through a window if you're inside or whatever.
And they will always come when you decide to take a trip to the bathroom.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
They're smart.
So bring. I use Google baby squirrel distress calls on your cell phone. And play that if you're not seeing mom, and that will often bring her. So, yeah. So if mom hasn't come in 4 hours, whatever, bring the baby back in, keep it warm overnight, try again at dawn, and then if nothing happens, we need to take the babies into care. Okay, so you have this baby or babies in front of you. What do? Warm them up. Can't say that enough. Most important, when the babies are little, we rehabbers will get a heating pad that doesn't turn off. We'll put it under half of the cage so they can crawl off of the heat if they get too hot. Real important to do that. Some rehabbers use those little hand warmers or those Snuggle Safe 12-hour heat discs, and always wrap it with fleece or a t-shirt material. Check the temp to make sure it's not too hot, of course. Again, common sense. We use a heating pad here at the intake center.
Aren't you going to be using the incubator anymore?
We can, if
Because
they're
that's the best thing to use for
right.
them.
If they're very teeny, we have an incubator. I've got one at home too.
If you get really excited and start taking more and more, it's a foam incubator. It was, I don't know what the price is nowadays, it was $59 at Tractor Supply.
Yeah.
And this is, I think, the 4th year that this is going to be in use.
Yeah.
So they last a fair amount of time.
I bought the $600 model. It's plastic and for the possums when they were tiny, but it can be used for any tiny mammal. And yeah, that is the best way to
You
go.
put it at 98 degrees.
Yeah, actually, squirrels run from 101 to 105.
Yeah, but you want to put it at 98. It
Yeah,
needs
a
to be
little lower.
less than what they are.
Right,
And
but-
I can't remember right now.
Yeah, but their temperatures are a little higher than ours. Okay, so when we first get them in, they're pretty stressed. So leave them for 10 or 15 minutes. Warm, dark, and quiet is the mantra of wildlife rehab. Cover with a dark cloth. Let them rest for a little while. Before you examine them is kind of what we do. My mentor treats all babies for shock on admission, which is fluids and vitamins and different things. I'll often use a drop of homeopathic medicine on my hands, rescue remedy, aconite, but diluted so that, when you handle it, that often helps. If extremely stressed, Benadryl is a last resort. children's Benadryl, as it will calm them and put them to sleep often, so, or they get sleepy. Okay, when you're ready to examine, weighing the baby is of paramount importance. So weight will guide you into how much and how often to feed it. We then go through every system of the body for injury, proper functioning, etc. There will be a physical exam video in our Google Drive and that you can all have access to watch whenever you want to. If injured, we can assess on the physical exam how to best treat it, if it needs meds, antibiotics, etc. If your baby's been anywhere near a cat or dog, it will need antibiotics, as there's a bacteria, Pasteurella, in their saliva that will kill a baby. So the weight of the baby, as the video said, will tell you how old it is, usually. The weight will tell you this. And if you have a very ill baby, say if you've got a 10-gram teeny thing with its eyes open, you know it's in a bad way because it's too small for the age that it is, and it will probably die. But so a weight will tell you a lot. I use, if you have a clutch of babies, say you got 4, right? You're not going to be able to tell them apart. I use
You're not gonna be able to what?
tell them apart.
Oh, okay.
I use nail polish, you know,
And they wear it off.
and they wear it off, so you put it back on. Yeah, so I put in their teeny weeny little nails, or you can use one of those permanent markers. They don't like the nail polish on their fur and skin. They'll take it off. It's
I would need them.
yeah. So
After you do it enough, you'll start noticing personalities.
yeah, you
You'll be able
do.
to change
You get to know them.
But at first, you
Right.
won't.
First night I had them. So these are about almost a week old. They were about a day old when I got them. They were tiny. Tiny.
What happened to the nest?
Tree cutter. It's always the tree cutters. Are you a tree cutter?
No. So
right-
Mama was nowhere to be found.
They did not bother to look for the mom, I guess. I just met him at a gas station. He put him in his car, and he didn't mention the mom. So the thing with the teeny weenies is you got to go like that. Just moved
Yeah.
from a 50 millimeter syringe or 0.5 to a 1. You know, so you just got to go real slow because these aspirate very easy.
So when it goes out their nose, that's not
Yeah, that's going in their
aspiration.
lung. Yeah, that's aspiration.
is?
Yeah, so you have to tip them upside down, let it all drain out. And what I do is I kind of rough them up a bit. I get a little wet cloth and I rough them up so where they're bitching, you know, because if they're
Oh,
complaining, then it's getting out of their lungs. You know, I think that's what mom does because you know we always wondered if if that ever happened with the mom, you know, and maybe it does, you know, and she just roughs them up and makes them be vocal, and that helps the stuff clear out of their nose. And then you give them antibiotics. I always have a little syringe of antibiotics, you know, that I keep. Because I'm fortunate enough, my boss lets me bring squirrels to work. So
Oh, wow.
I get to, you know, they're with me in the office.
So is it the same thing as with birds, that if you think they were cat caught or, you know, had an interaction with a cat, you give them antibiotics?
Yeah. I pretty much, the teeny weenies, you know, if I start feeding them, you know, because they have different eating habits, you know, or it's sometimes each one of them eats differently, you know. They doze off to sleep and they're, you know, so you got to just be very careful of each one's eating patterns, you know. But I usually give them antibiotics, usually after the first night, because, you know, they don't know my eating style. I'm trying to be slow, and they end up getting that little clicking sound in their lungs when they breathe. They have a little clicking sound.
Is that called a feeding tube? That little.
This is a syringe, and then I use a different kind of nipple. I don't use miracle nipples. This is called a Cattac nipple, and you cut your own hole. The hole you cut, it just comes in like a rubber thing, you know. And this seems to work the best for me because it goes past their throat. They put it all the way back there, you know, and so it goes past their lungs, you know. And then they have a strong suction power. I mean, you can feel them really pulling on it just with their
their tongue and their upper gums.
So where did you learn all this?
I found some squirrels on my property, and I just went on the internet and I, looked up some stuff on the internet about how to feed them and what they eat, and then I joined this class so I could get more squirrels. I joined this organization and I came to their mammal training so they could give me squirrels.
Okay.
Okay, so there's been a lot about feeding already, but let me run through this a little bit too. So any baby we get in, we start with the Pedialyte for 24 hours for all babies, but especially if the baby is dehydrated. And you all understood the Turgor test. I'm semi-dehydrated. Okay. So that's really a good indication. And even with fur on a baby, you can still kind of see when their skin, like she was doing in the video. Okay, so you check for dehydration, 24 hours of Pedialyte. And then we use Fox Valley here. I know some rehabbers, this is the deluxe model and it's in the freezer. We'll give you a little tour after and show you where things are. So you can take a little bit of this home with you to make your formula.
So that's just a powder?
It's a powder, yeah. Two parts water to 1 part formula.
And there's 2 different
Yes,
age groups.
we'll get
2
to that.
different types of formula.
Yeah, we're getting to that.
Okay.
Okay. Some people use Esbalac, but some rehabbers think it doesn't reconstitute very evenly. So we've standardized it and mostly use this. It's matched to their mother's milk.
And what is that called?
It's called Fox Valley is the brand of, and we order it from Chris's Squirrels, which is a great website for stuff that you need for squirrels. Chris's Squirrels.
It's a candy store.
It is. It's like Santa Claus. Gee, I want that. Okay, some rehabbers add a dried cream powder, which ups calorie intake. It's called Ultra Boost. And we give colostrum, like their mothers would have for the first few days with a baby in. So there's additives you can use in your feeding. And as you know now, Lisa's our expert on the teeny weeny ones, the pinkies. She's our newborn whisperer over there, and she gets most of our really...
Big Mama, I thought they called me Big Mama.
Big Mama, I like that. So she gets most of our very small ones. And there is an art, as she showed you, to feeding the tiny ones and not aspirating them, which we've all done, I'm afraid. You can easily kill a tiny baby, but yeah, you've gotten that, I think. So using the proper syringe and nipple, very important. They get 5% of their body weight per feeding. So if you have an 80-gram baby, they will get 4 cc's every feeding. And you'll get a chance to see this done when your mentor can kind of run through that for you if you're going to get a tiny baby.
Do you have to document this at all?
I do, and I'll kind of show you with the form section what I do, and I document a lot, and it's kind of important, I think. And then it keeps you on track.
Yeah.
So when they're little, like Lisa's feeding these tiny babies, 6 times a day, once in the middle of the night?
Well, I do all night. I do every 2.5 hours,
With those
when I
teeny
first
ones.
got them, but now I do every 3.5 hours.
Yeah.
I get up throughout the whole night.
Oh gosh, glad you're doing it. I'm too old for that.
Sometimes they suggest 1.5 to 2 hours.
Yeah,
But at nighttime,
when they're tiny.
like I go to bed at 10, so I'd feed them at 10, and then I set the alarm for 1,
Yeah,
and they can go 3 hours during the nighttime, and then I get up at 4, so it works out
works out
perfect
great.
for me.
You're not getting
And
enough
so
sleep, girl.
this is one thing, it's like kids, you make them do what you want to do,
Yeah.
not what they want to do.
Within reason. Yes,
Yeah.
that's true. So of course, as they get older, you feed them more per feeding and less times a day, and you drop the night one. So
During the beginning of the season, how many squirrels are we talking about? A lot?
that we'll get in here.
Yeah.
It varies. It really varies.
I didn't bring my report with me. There's
Yeah.
quite a few.
Yeah, there's usually
we
about
got-
70 or so for a whole year,
Well, there's more
and
than that.
probably only about 30 at the end of the year, the other 40 in the beginning.
Yeah, we're about to get a rush, hopefully,
Yeah.
hopefully.
Yeah, Lisa's got some now, and they're gonna start.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think the cold set it back though because of the tree climbers.
Well, I've got a pregnant one now
Oh, boy.
outside, and she looks, I don't know how
Yeah,
much,
she's
'cause
about
she
to
looks
talk
pretty big,
probably.
yeah.
yeah.
In fact, I haven't seen her now for 2 or 3 days, so she may have had them.
Yeah.
Okay, guys, let me get through this, then we can talk. Okay, so, so another example, 150-gram baby, which is getting a little bit older, will only feed 3 or 4 times a day and doesn't need a night feeding. And they'll get 7.5 cc's per feeding if they want it. At that point, they'll also be starting to eat food. I start with the rodent pellets because they really don't like it, so you kind of make them do that before you give them the good stuff like avocados and fruit. They love avocados. Okay.
I do too.
You want to see an average weight gain of 3 grams a day for the little ones. I've had larger babies put on 10 grams a day. They're little piggies. Love their formula. And it's interesting, they're all different. They often wean themselves. They can do that. Just they don't want it anymore, like a human baby. I've had some that would take formula as long as you wanted to give it to them. I had one that I released a couple months back, and I was at the outdoor cage feeding the teenagers that were in there, right? And he comes up and on the top of the cage. What? So I gave him a little syringe of formula, and he scampered off. So he would have taken it as, yeah. And he was 5 or 6 months by that time. Anyway, it's pretty funny. Okay, stimulating them, the film, the video did go through that quite a bit. We stimulate them at every feeding, very important, because they can get distended. I use a cotton ball with warm water. Toilet paper, it's okay, but it's a little rougher.
I use makeup applicators, the brushes.
Oh, yeah, and then you
I just
wash
dip
them?
in warm
Or
water or
Q-tips, or.
Q-tips when they're teeny weeny.
Like
Yeah.
I lick them all over with the makeup brush thing.
And after they open their eyes, you don't have to do it anymore.
Right, and you'll see the little poops in the cage when they're doing it on their own.
Yeah.
And then you know you don't have to stimulate them anymore.
And then when you pick them up and they pee all over you.
Yeah, they do that too. Okay, that'll be demonstrated again.
That part?
No, the peeing? No. Probably it might. Okay, housing your baby. We talked about the heating pad. We use fleece or old t-shirts as bedding. The towels with the little loops, they can get their little claws and then even tear off a claw. So don't use a regular towel with these babies. I like old t-shirts and chamois. Those cloths that the car guys use. Grocery outlet.
Buy these to feed them.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
whole-
I noticed you had that.
The little,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, to keep them warm.
Oh.
And she
dollar
used a
store.
pouch on the video.
Well, I
So.
thought about the dollar store, I've never gotten there, but thrift store or.
Grocery outlet is a great place to look for
I
stuff
love
too.
pillowcases as long as there's no holes. As soon as you
Right.
get a hole, throw it away.
Oh
It'll
yeah.
only get bigger.
And anything with threads, you don't want that. 'Cause
Yeah.
They get them wrapped around their neck sometimes, it's been known to happen.
So they will graduate to larger and larger cages as they get older. I have a lot of cages at my house. We have some here, so we will outfit you with what you need. I wash the cages with a 10% bleach solution after the babies have gone. They usually don't have any sorts of diseases, but just to be safe. At release, they need to have their full vision, be able to run and climb accurately, jump from branch to branch, have a fear of humans and predators, and be able to recognize their,
About what
Natural.
age is that?
pardon?
About what age would that be?
About 16 weeks. Some people say 14 for a gray. I usually have mine in the outdoor cage from 12 to 16 weeks. So give them a full month although some
And
are,
that's a soft release, right?
Oh, like-
You just leave the cage open?
yeah,
Like a human baby, some mature faster than others.
right.
Yeah.
Some are dying to get out and they're just pacing and climbing.
Yeah.
So they're all different. They're all different.
And there's a soft release and a hard release, you know. Soft release I think is better.
Oh, yeah. When you leave food out for them, you leave the cage open so they can go back into their nest in the cage until they build their own nest in a tree. So you want to take care of them and not throw them out there. Okay. Common medications we use: antibiotics, pain meds, GI meds, antidiarrheals. Sam is going to my right-hand man. He's a doctor, I'm a nurse, so we've done a lot of this stuff. So he's going to do the medication and the physical exam one, and that will be on the Google
Just
Drive
have
too.
somebody help you at first in the medication. It's
Absolutely.
important.
We use a double dose of antibiotics for a first dose. For fleas, Bev taught me this. We get the baby kitten safe flea powder, spray a paper towel, put a fleece on top of it, put the baby on top of that, and it will kill the fleas. But it's toxic stuff, so you want to be really careful about.
And then I've had adult squirrels that show up and they've got mange mites. So
Yeah.
Just all scrappy looking, and if you just get the ivermectin horse paste and you just rub a little thin layer on walnuts and put it out there, and when they eat it, it just fixes them right up.
I will inject into a walnut sometimes with a needle and a syringe if I want an
I've tried
antibiotic.
that. It doesn't, it's very difficult to do, it
You-
really is.
With an adult, you're not going to catch it too.
Yeah, I just throw the
Medicated.
walnuts out, you know, and they,
Oh, yeah,
they're
just
apple
crack them
flavored.
in half and put it
Yeah.
in
Yeah, or
throw
I
the
just get
halves
the
out.
already shelled ones and I just rub it all on there. 'Cause
I-
the squirrel dose is very, very small, cause you just buy this one dose for a horse, which will
Yeah.
last you a million years for squirrels.
Yeah.
But I'll inject it right inside a whole walnut and throw them the walnut. And many ways to do many things. There's not just one way to do stuff. We give beneficial bacteria when we give antibiotics, like we humans do. We'll take probiotics if we're on amoxicillin, and that helps. Okay, so what can go wrong? Least favorite topic, aspiration pneumonia, we've already talked about. If you see the milk coming out of their nose, you've aspirated that baby. Turn it upside down, try and get anything that you can to drip out of their nose. You can't really feed them too slowly. They will complain if you do, but it's going too fast, and that really gets them. Sucking too hard, birth defects, and trauma can also cause aspiration. The angle of the syringe is important. There will be a feeding video, but you don't want to come from above. You want to come from below or straight on. It decreases the aspiration risk. All rehabbers aspirate a squirrel or two. I don't know anyone who hasn't, and you will see death from that. It's tough, but it's part of being a rehabber. Call for support. I'm a good one to call. As my mentor said when I called her in tears one day after a baby died, Pick yourself up, care for the ones that you have, and know that many would die without your help. And think of the ones you saved. Helped a little bit, but it's really hard to lose a critter. Bloat is common, especially as you learn to feed your baby. You'll see a distended abdomen, a fussy or lethargic baby. They don't want to eat. Can be caused by overfeeding, being cold, fast feeding, spoiled formula, failure to potty them, or a change in diet. Quickly on formula, that only keeps for 48 hours in your fridge. I make small batches. This is a ghee container, the clarified butter.
I use shot glasses. This is like sipping
Shock,
cream.
yeah, because you have the teeny
Butterscotch
weeny one.
Sipping cream.
Oh, I love that. So, and you only do a little bit, but they'd like you to let it sit for 6-8 hours because it gets lumpy. Sometimes if you don't have any formula and you got to give it to them now, you can strain it through a strainer and get the lumps out that way.
If you use a little whisk,
Yeah,
it prevents it, and then also use a fork. And I
Yeah.
think you use a fork.
I do.
and that works great too.
Mhm.
But these little whisks are amazing.
They
I
are.
never
They
have
have little
lumps.
coffee stirrers like that, just teeny little things that spin.
Really?
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
electric,
Yeah.
or with
Yeah,
a battery.
One battery goes.
Yeah.
That would
Just
be
have different little
great.
wands.
That is cool. Yeah. So some people use ice cube trays with a snap lid. I haven't done that. If bloated, stop the formula, put them back on the Pedialyte. If they're bloated, Caro syrup or molasses is a laxative. Put a little on your finger and put it in their mouth. That can help. Benevac, the beneficial bacteria, can help. Children's simethicone is also used. Pain meds may be needed. But my favorite thing is you get a bowl full of, warm water, and you give them a little bath. You sink them down in it, and they love it, actually. And you kind of massage their bellies down, so the poop comes out, and get things moving in there.
Will that be on the video?
I don't think so. Call me. It's easy to do, and then dry them, of course, really well.
Okay, I gotta run, Becky. Thank
Bye,
you.
Jen.
And you'll be seeing me.
Cool.
Okay.
Take care.
Bye.
I will often use a stethoscope and listen for their bowel sounds, because, you want things to be moving around in there. And if you have a stethoscope, I will definitely use that a lot. Okay, diarrhea can be life-threatening. Make sure your feedings are spaced regularly apart. It can need an antibiotic, stop any fruit, and Pedialyte again for 24 hours. Some folks mix a little bit of rice cereal in with the formula.
When they're older, right?
When they're older, yeah, and that can stop them up and stop the diarrhea. Okay, head trauma from a fall, from a tree, a car strike, a dog maul is a serious thing. Don't put them on heat, as it causes the brain to swell more. They won't smell.
They will if you leave them.
Anti-inflammatories are used. Even a shot of a steroid if severe. Call me if it's really severe. I can give them a shot, as well as sub-Qing fluids if they're super dehydrated. Sam is a doctor. I'm going to ask him if he could be on call for that too, if it's serious. Okay. Then you watch and see if it recovers. If they fall over 50 feet, they're going to need medication. But it's amazing how well they bounce. I have seen them come from incredibly high, and they survive this little tiny thing. It's astounding.
Remember the ones that were on the conveyor belt at the
Yeah.
junkyard?
At the junkyard.
Oh,
3 little Douglas squirrels. One had his foot
Yeah.
chopped off and everything. In front of his
Yeah.
oh, bless his heart.
This is sad.
I don't know how they survived that whole thing. It was just like unloading his metal onto a conveyor
Oh.
belt.
There was
They
a couple
survived,
that did
huh?
not survive, that I never even
Yeah,
brought home.
those were the Douglas squirrels. They
Yeah.
turned out to be Douglas squirrels. Those were harder for me to feed at work because they require, they stay small, so you gotta
Yeah.
use a small syringe and you just gotta fill it all the time, so it feels
Yeah,
like
a lot of
time.
work, right. Okay, euthanasia we talked about. Malocclusion of teeth can happen after a fall, is serious. Bev's gonna do, I think, a video on that. It's
good.
painful, they can't chew, and they can't eat. And the teeth can grow, awful, awful places. Okay, I think we've covered all of this. With a fracture, call us. Bev is kind of an expert on this. Pain will need to be treated. And if it's a bad break, we'll need to euthanize, as we said. We do that here. Okay, nothing but the paperwork, guys. This is the major form. The blue is filled out by the finder or the person helping the finder. Get as much info as you can. We need a date, and there'll be a way to enter a code with the number that I'll get to you how to do that. The species, every squirrel gets their own form, I told you that. And then information. Here's the physical exam form on the back. and your disposition, did you transfer it, that sort of thing. So this form, and you were asking Colette, I use this care record, and I'll put on this date, the baby weighed this much, this is what I fed him, 5 cc's 4 times a day, I gave him this kind of food, and anything else that you want. So it's a charting record.
I think you have an old one, but there's now a column for weight. And
Yeah.
I think there's
Yeah.
two or three new columns. I
Send
can't
me
remember.
forms that you have, yeah. This is a food log someone uses, I haven't used that. But anyway, we need these back when you release, or if you transfer a baby to someone else, you give them the form, and I always keep one for myself, make a photocopy. But when they're done, they're released, you bring this, you finish filling it out, you bring it here. There will be a folder on the back desk across from the bathroom. It's a green folder, and I'll have it labeled, put it in there, because we enter all of these into the national database for the statistics that are compiled.
And
by-
it goes for reports at the end of the year to the federal and the state,
Right,
so it's required.
so that's it. So, I think I ran through everything, guys. Did I show you everything? Oh, this is the Bible of wild mammal babies. It's prohibitively expensive. There is a copy here if you want to refer to it. It has all the diseases. It has a page for every medication, like, say here. You know, you're giving it this medicine, this is how much the critter weighs, this is how much you give, and often they're microscopic, just a drip of medication. So this is a fabulous book, and every mammal, here's the whole thing on the eastern gray, it's back east, and the western gray, it's basically the same squirrel.
They just have a little more red on.
Yeah, it's basically the same one. So I recommend, if you can afford it, to buy this book.
What are those black squirrels called?
But
Black
we
squirrels,
have
they're
one
black
here
morphs.
to
And you
refer
have
to, and you
try
can make a,
figure out which
Are they in
kind
that
are.
bookshelf?
they're in
Probably
the, yeah,
three
bookshelves,
squirrels.
and make a copy of a page if you want to take it home. So, oh, little cage, Bev, I think this is yours, if you want it back. Transport cage.
Mine? Oh.
It has
They
your
have my
name on
on
it,
the top?
has your name on it,
Oh, then I guess it's mine.
if you want. So these are little transport cages.
We all trade around with
Yeah.
cages and stuff all the time.
Right.
And you can see cages here. A
Oops,
lot
sorry.
of them are songbirds, but a good portion of them are mammals too.
We put some of
sizes.
the mammal ones back there too, so those are like medium-sized cages. These are birds here.
During the year, those are, when we're open, those are all gonna go out of here and into the, into your homes mostly. But then we have a container in the back, so if there's something you don't see here, the only thing you need to watch is the opening of some of the cages out in the container are too big. And the little square, anything they can get their nose through, they can get their whole body through.
Yep, yeah, so we'll tell you about that when we give you
Or
the
like
cage.
this wooden one is not good, they'll eat their way through.
Yeah, yeah, they'll get through that. Go ahead, Colette.
On the physical exam, is that done here or do we do that at home?
Either way, if I or someone else is meeting you here to give you the scroll, we can go through it here.
Oh, especially initially.
Initially, it's the initial physical exam, and so that's when you do
As you learn,
everything.
you'll meet somebody, it might happen to be, like I live in South County and someone's coming from South County, it's easier to meet them up in the Rayleigh's parking lot or something. And then I'll take them home and do the exam there, but for the first few exams, it would be good to have someone with you.
And there will be a video, Sam is making a video on the physical exam, so.
What do you use as an anti-inflammatory? Do you use Medicam?
Medicam.
Or you-
Bye-bye, Laura, thank you. Yeah, we don't, and we don't use narcotics with
Yeah,
critters.
I just wanted to make sure you use the same as the birds.
Medicam is an anti-inflammatory and a pain med, like ibuprofen, so it serves as both.
Okay.
Yeah,
And where do you get it? You would get that here?
Yeah.
yes, yes.
Right, thank you.
You're welcome, guys.
All right.
Thank you so much. Any other questions? Give me a call. You will be getting emails from me with information, especially about the educational materials that will be available to you. We're going to try and have a meeting every 2 months, I think we decided, for small mammal team members, just to see how you're doing and say hi and all of that. So hope to see you there, and I'll see you with the squirrels.